Hi class, I'd like to share with you some specifics for our assignment with the parent interview. First thing, this is just a summary of what's in the syllabus about this assignment. It's worth 40 points out of a lot that we have available this semester. And we're going to do a written summary. It's around 2 pages. People always ask how long. I'm not picky about that, but just to give you an estimate, it will probably end up being around that length. Some interview question ideas. You can read them here. I think one of the most powerful questions is to just open it as a tell me what it was like for you. Um, and then following up with what was the parent's understanding of the evaluation process? That's really important as we think about evaluating kids. We want to know did the parent understand the process and how can we make their understanding better? And then how did the child react to the evaluation process? Some children don't mind at all working with all these new people throughout the testing, and some children really kind of get overwhelmed or stressed by it. So find out if their child had any memorable reaction to that process. Some other questions. What were their expectations before they met with the team? So the evaluation process happens, and at the end of it, the parents have a meeting with the school evaluation team. And I want you to find out from the parents what were their expectations of that meeting before they were there. And then when they met with the team, what was that like? What was the meeting like? What was the written report like? Just what was their reaction? And then did they feel like they learned something new or confirmed something that they suspected perhaps about their child? What did they learn about the process of special education? And then what was just the most difficult part for them and their child and the most beneficial part of the evaluation process? And also, I'd like to hear from parents some recommendations for us as education professionals to make that initial evaluation process. So, we're talking about the first time that their child was evaluated at school, to make that the least painful process and the most beneficial for everyone involved. So, some common questions that we've had in the past about this assignment: can we email or send a questionnaire to someone for the interview? And I really prefer that you don't do that. I think you get a lot from tone of voice and nonverbals if you can be there in person. Um, so I prefer that you don't do that over email. Phone interviews or Skype or um, Google Hangout, whatever works is fine, but I would prefer nothing less than phone as far as contact. The age of the child is not important at all. This initial evaluation process, I think you'll find, is a very memorable one for families. So it'd be interesting to have a sample from the class of parents from different stages of this experience. Maybe some who recently had this happen, and others who it happened a long time ago, but it might still be an important memory that they have. And then please ask follow-up and clarification questions. Those questions that I went over before are really just to give you an idea, a starting point. Most importantly, I want you to find out kind of the real story of that family's experience in this evaluation process. So that's the main thing, is that you get meaningful information from them, not that you have to check off answers to each one of those questions. Like I mentioned, written summary. I know we talked about in class doing possibly a bulleted list or a discussion, and I landed on having you do a written summary. And the reason for that is I really want you to get some experience writing up a summary, or excuse me, an interview summary in an evaluation report. As special education teachers, you'll have to do that often when you're interviewing parents perhaps or other teachers, specials teachers sometimes. So I want you to have practice of doing that in a really professional way that it reflects in the evaluation report. So you can see a sample in the interview section of the sample report that you had. It's for Gail, I believe, is the student's name. So there's an interview section, and that one is from a parent questionnaire. But that style of written summary is what I want you to use, which means using the third person. Don't say, well, you don't want to use the word I, obviously. You are summarizing what that person said to you. So attribute those statements to a person. You don't want to just write a particular statement without saying who said that, because then it's confusing. It's when the reader reads the evaluation report, they're not sure whose opinion that is or whose perception that is. So please use third person and attribute the statements to a person. Um, even if it's that same person over and over, you'll find ways to kind of do that creatively or smoothly. And look in that example if you have questions. Now there is a rubric, so I'll send you that as well. So look at that for scoring and other specifics. But these are the 5 areas that you'll be graded on. The richness of your content, and that really goes to what questions you asked and what information you got back. The flow, readability, word choice, that's just where it goes into how easy is it for others to read. It can be succinct and simple, but is it clear? Conventions, that's just a level of professionalism, using the right spelling, um, periods, commas, things of that nature. If you use a direct quote from a parent that's more than 3 or 4 words, I want you to be using your quotation marks just like you would in other papers. And then your professionalism of written expression, and that goes back to what we talked about on the previous slide with um, making sure you're attributing all the statements to a person and you're using the third person. And then I want you to do a small reflection within the paper. I want you to reflect upon what that parent told you and what that means for you in your practice as an educator. How can you use that information and make yourself better? And at that point in the paper, you can switch to the first person. So you can start saying, I felt, however, but make it clear that you're switching to that. You could just maybe put 2 different headings within the paper. That'll make it clear, and also it's a professional look. All right, I think that is it. If you have any questions once you look at the rubric and review this, please let me know. But I hope you have a really good experience getting kind of the perception of a parent and then being able to reflect that in writing, and then we'll talk about it in class as well.